I am Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Soucy.
And we're paranormal specialists who live in the most haunted city on earth, Savannah, Georgia. Every day is Halloween in our line of work, so join us as we spin true tales of haunts, murders, and disturbing Savannah history. I'm Madison.
I'm Chris.
And welcome to the most haunted city on earth. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the most haunted city on earth. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Soucy.
And I'm a biggin.
You're a biggin.
A biggin.
Biggin.
All right, heard that.
That is not true.
No, you're actually quite compact.
I'm a small one.
I used to just carry him around in my wallet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's actually just the dwarves without hats. That Chris.
That's wrong.
All right. You know, when I was growing boy, I didn't grow much, but when I was growing boy, I was at one point 4'10". I was 4'10", and I'd go, and when like people be like, "Oh, how tall are you?" I'd be like 4'10", like the shotgun.
Oh no.
I was like literally.
How old were you?
13.
Oh God.
12. Well, I only said that because that was my first gun ever. It was a 410, so I'd say 410 like shotgun.
That's kind of exciting, actually, to have a correlation like that, a solid correlation.
Now I can say 5'6". Not good. It's not. It
Compact,
doesn't work.
yes. 5'10", or not 5'6", like how your back feels. 56.
Yeah, that's it, babe.
Yeah.
5'6" on a scale of 10.
For all y'all listening, I'm short. Anyway, let's keep it going.
Anyways.
That's why he's sitting way away from us.
Yeah,
it's true.
It's true. Well, welcome back, y'all. So if you're still listening, we are going to be talking about the Overtoun Bridge today, which, if you aren't familiar with what that is, basically it's a bridge where dogs yeet themselves from it.
Yes.
Absolute insanity.
It is. It's insanity.
It's wild.
So we'll get into that in just a second. But first off, first segment of the day, we have our Cryptid of the week. For those of you who are new here, I have this book. It is called Cryptids, Creatures and Critters. And basically, I got this at a bookshop in Charleston because it is very cute. It has little drawings and blurbs of different cryptids from all around the world. So basically, we have started this little segment where we flip to a random page and read what our cryptid is of the week. So,
And this is the first time we've done it for everyone, right?
Second time.
Second time.
And the one that we got last week
I wasn't here.
with Eni was the infield monster.
Oh, sure. Of course.
And Eni said that that's going to be her roller derby name if she ever returns to roller derby. So
Oh, perfect.
But anyways, we're going to flip to a random page. And today we have the Talpo.
The Talpo.
Or Talpo.
The Talpo.
From Appalachia.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Its category is a monster. In the content warning says death and animal death. So that's concerning, especially because it has this lovely drawing of basically a saber-toothed cat.
Yeah, it's like a large cat
with
a detachable tail.
Yeah, and it shows the tail meat and everything. So
Tail meat.
But okay,
this episode's country.
Yeah, the tail meat.
It shows country.
Appalachia.
So the stories of the Talpo typically describe a starving hunter and his dogs returning after an unsuccessful hunt with only a measly rabbit to feed all four of them.
Dang.
On his return to his hut, the hunter sees a strange shape with bright eyes and a thick bushy tail. It's actually just my cat, Gilly Doo. Who wants to eat his food.
She is a cryptid.
She is. Fueled by hunger, he shoots the creature, severing its tail from its body. The creature wails and flees into the darkness of the forest. The hunter takes the tail and feeds the rabbit to his dogs while eating the tail himself.
Ooh.
That night, there is a loud scratching on the walls of his cabin and the distant whisper of, "Talpo, Talpo, give back my Talpo." Ooh. He sends his 3 dogs out to investigate the creature, but only 2 dogs return. Later in the night, the scratching sound returns, but this time on the door of his cabin. The voice is louder now. Talpo, I want my Talpo.
Okay, wait 1 second, real fast. Chris's face. I know for a fact you have not heard this, have you?
I have heard this.
You have?
Of course.
Okay, then I don't know you at all. That's crazy. Because you do this face that I thought was when you don't know something, when you're absorbing something that you enjoy and it's brand new to you.
Oh no, I'm enjoying the reading of the Talpo at the door.
Okay.
I'm like, get it, bring the actor out.
All right.
He sends out the 2 hounds to chase away the beast, but only one dog returns. Night progresses on and the clawing sound echoes from within his cabin.
Talpo, give me back my Talpo.
Are you the sound effects?
Yeah, I'm the sound effect.
The man sends his last hound to chase away the beast, but it does not return. Ooh. Alone, the man cowers in his cabin as the scratching noise grows louder and louder. A figure appears at the end of his bed, covered in dark fur, with 2 long ears and clawed hands.
Talpo, I want my Talpo.
It snarls.
I don't have your Talpo.
The man cries.
I ate it.
The beast leaps onto the man's chest, pinning him down as it hisses.
You've got my Talpo.
By morning, the only trace left of the hunter is his torn, blood-soaked clothing. If you listen closely to the morning breeze, you can hear the distant whispering of
Talpo, I've got my Talpo.
He ripped him open to get the tail. That's dope.
Did R.L. Stein write this?
Right? I love that.
The Talpo is a popular urban legend told around campfires. Some variations name the dogs and state whether they fled into the forest or were killed by the Talpo. Another story that mirrors the Talpo narrative is called the Devil's Big Toe.
Oh, I know the devil.
That's how we know this story.
That's how we know.
Give me my toe.
Yeah. I want my toe.
Yeah.
In which a woman digs up a big toe along with her potatoes and eats it.
Yep.
Only for a demon to appear to her in the night and demand its toe back.
Yep.
And then
So,
this is the
yeah.
Talpo.
Let me see it.
It's the classic variations.
Oh, nice.
Because they also all kind of converge, and the reason why I know this story is they converge on golden arm, the golden arm.
Okay.
You know, who's got my golden arm?
Yeah.
You know, that classic and fascinatingly enough, written by Mark Twain, the golden arm, but people only know it as a campfire story. And so I did a long kind of research on campfire stories and where campfire stories come from and the branches of campfire stories, the classics, you know, the killer with a hook for a hand and, you know, things like that, the kinds of stories that you tell. Right.
Hooks.
Red Eyes is a big campfire story told all around. And so, coming up with these stories, I came across Talpo in that, you know, Devil's Toe kind of bent because people love the idea of accidentally taking something that, you know, you shouldn't have taken. They love telling that story. Don't take for granted anything that you have belongs to you because there's some supernatural force out there coming to, you know,
Claim
get you.
its toe.
I really like that one.
Yeah.
That's
That's a fully realized ghost story. It's not really a cryptid to me. It's a folk tale. It's lore.
It's lore.
So
it's
there you
lore.
go.
Talpo.
So that is your cryptid / folk tale of the day, everybody.
Yo, Serenity called it Cryptid Roulette.
It is Cryptid
Crypto
Roulette.
I actually think
That's what we should
the
call
new
it.
name.
Absolutely, Crypto
Yo,
Roulette.
Serenity just named it. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Cryptid Roulette.
I'll make a little title for it.
Yeah.
That's good. I
like
that.
it. All right. Well, now that we have read the Talpo,
Parent Junkies have like created this whole show. We just
Practically.
show up, yo.
we do. But
Show up.
all right. So next, before we get into our next segment, we're going to thank some new Para Junkies. So we want to thank Amos, Carolyn, Rachel, Lisa, and Kimberly. So thank y'all so much for becoming Para Junkies.
Amos, I love your cookies.
Amos. I do love those cookies.
Famous Amos.
Famous Amos.
Good stuff.
But yes, so thank you all so much for joining us over on Patreon.
Seriously.
It's
It's the number one way to support us and keep this show going. Junkies keep this show alive. That's what
And
the
they
show's
have
built on.
a lot to say about how this show is run and what segments we do, and they name our segments apparently.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
This show is
they
built
name
upon
themselves for that matter.
Exactly.
This show's built upon the corpses of Junkies.
Bruh. That's...
We're a necrocast.
We are, basically. But yeah, and we do the fix before every episode that we are live streaming, which is also why you'll sometimes hear us mentioning some of the comments on the live stream, because Chris and I have a big monitor now next to us, so we can see all of it while we're live streaming. But we just did a spirit chat session for the fix, and also
A tight-lipped spirit chat.
Very
section,
tight-lipped.
I might add. Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
tight-lipped.
But we do that. We also have group chats and stuff on Patreon, which is really fun. We have a few different things. So we have the normal group chats like Parajunkie Anonymous, for the Ultra Parajunkies, which is the higher tier or highest tier we have on Patreon. Those are called the Eerie Elite. We had the Fae Daddies for people who like the Fae. And then I actually just recently added yesterday, at least when we're filming this, I added the what I called the X-Filers. It's basically the alien and true
the
crime
alien,
group chat.
yeah, there you
So if you like that sort of stuff, that is where you can find us. And it's a really good community, really good people in the Parajunkie realm.
Heck
and
yeah.
also you get to have a lot of direct communication with all of us, as you can see, because we're literally reading the comments
Right.
as we're filming this. But
Dope.
so thank you all for becoming Parajunkies. And now, before we get into our main portion of the episode, we have Chris's Paranormal Pro Tip.
Paranormal pro tip.
Dun,
So,
dun, dun.
intriguingly enough, if you are interested in ghost stories, one of the best ways to get ghost stories is by simply going to local places of business and asking people working behind the desk. That is one of the easiest ways to get, especially in a place that you don't know, that you're not familiar with. So libraries are great for that. And ask people. Because people have a wide repository of the stories that they heard growing up, a wide repository of the stories that are popular to tell, and they just know the local legends. And what's fascinating is if you do it enough, as you go through the country or the world and ask people stories, they start to categorize themselves. You start to learn, oh, you know what? You have a ghost just like X, Y, or Z.
Yes.
You know, oh, you have a woman in white that walks down the road. That's funny. That's, Resurrection Mary. Or, you have, a grand lady who comes down the main stairs of her big house, the lady in gray. We have the Mrs. Kehoe that does that same thing, has that same aspect to it. Oftentimes seen at the main staircase. Mm-hmm. There's something to the fact that when people tell stories, there are common links to it, and it's like, the question becomes, is this how ghost stories spread? And so people take the pieces that they kind of resonate with them and retread them, or do ghosts behave in specific patterns that become what kind of spirit they are, that help identify what kind of spirit you're dealing with. So one of the best ways to get to know ghosts of an area is to talk to people, because you can find books, absolutely, that will outline these things, but a lot of times those are academic, and a lot of times those are not going to tell you the ghost stories that people believe, because the ghost stories that people believe are oftentimes not digestible as history, and not digestible as something that you could just report, because it's something personal. It's something that, when I was in high school, there was this old house out on, Old Bay Road, and we'd go down there and, we'd dare each other to knock on the door. Those instances and those stories, they pack a real supernatural punch, because they are about your own testing of what you believe in and what you think and what you hope a supernatural event is going to be like. So I'm not saying forego books, buy all the books, read all the books, but talk to the people. Mm-hmm. Because people will generally have stories that are personal to them and that are not sold for mass consumption.
I will also say, don't immediately dismiss just by how someone looks that they might not have a ghost story.
Absolutely. That is definitely true. One of my favorite ghost storytellers out there are policemen.
Yeah.
Because when a policeman has a story, a ghost story, they're overgoing a lot of their own personal beliefs because they are told to stick to the facts, to be observant, to have. So if they've got a ghost story, it had superseded their training. And then medical staff, nurses and doctors.
Oh, yeah.
If they have ghost stories, they are close to death all the time. And hospitals are incredibly haunted. So these people, some of the best ghost stories out there come from nurses, actually. Overnight nurses, it's hard to beat an overnight nurse ghost story.
That is true. I will say I had a guest a couple weeks ago. We had a private tour for this convention or some sort of facility that was essentially bringing together all of these different people from different fields, but they all were, I think they were a part of the same union or whatever it was. But regardless, a lot of different people who did not know each other from all over the country. And there was this man on my tour who was the literal embodiment of a frown. And he was sitting front row of my ghost tour. And I was like, oh, this man doesn't want to be here. There's no way. Because he just looked sad and upset and angry the whole time. And I was like, okay, he's not enjoying it, but whatever. And at the end of the tour, before they come into the Savannah Underground, he pulls me aside off the trolley and he goes, you need to come to my town in Michigan. And I was like, I'm like, why? And he goes, we have a demon and I've experienced it. And I was like, excuse me? And he's like, And just literally the biggest frown on his face, just like a largemouth bass sort of face.
Wow.
And I was like, what are you saying to me right now? And he goes,
When I was 11 years old, I was in the cemetery one night, and this entity with red eyes came flying out of one of the crypts at me, and I believe it's a demon.
and I was like,
Wow.
okay then. And I would have never suspected that would come out of that
reminded
man's...
me of Chris's story about the desert demon.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
like
the red
flying
eyes.
out of That's nuts.
Yeah. So just saying, just because someone looks like they wouldn't have a ghost story does not mean that they don't.
Well, I love demons, but let's talk about something a little brighter.
Dead dogs.
Don't have it. Yeah, I was gonna say, sorry. You came to the wrong place, sonny.
All
JK.
right. Well, we're going to go ahead and dive on in, y'all. We're going to talk about the Overtoun Bridge in
And if I break out in a terrible
Scotland.
Scottish accent, I apologize. I know it's not a great Scottish accent, but there are lots of times when I can't control it.
It's just fun.
Yeah, no, I know.
I will
That's
say,
great.
This is gonna be
Great.
this can be tough for me, y'all. I'm a dog dad through and through. I'm
he was
nervous.
probably grouchy because the spirits won't let him sleep. LOL.
Absolutely.
Probably. That man looked haunted. And so...
Coley, I saw a spirit today, a nursing home worker. Yes, absolutely.
Wow. Send in your
Right
ghost
it is.
mail.
Send in the ghost mail.
Right it in, Coley.
Or record it and send it as a video or
yeah.
audio.
We'll play the audio that weeks.
Yeah, whatever works. We just like to hear the stories. But anywho, so we're going to talk about the Overtoun Bridge, which is also referred to as the Dog Suicide Bridge.
Oh my gosh.
It's just a mouthful.
Yeah. And it is an intriguing landmark near Dumbarton, Scotland.
Okay.
And so it is a late 19th century bridge that is both, appreciated and kind of renowned in that area for its Victorian architecture. But
It's a beautiful bridge.
But it really is. Mostly people go there because of the series of unexplained incidences involving dogs that have puzzled experts for decades.
Yeah.
Wow.
So basically a little bit of historical background. The Overtoun Bridge was constructed in 1895 and it was designed by the landscape architect H.E. Milner. The bridge was part of the Overtoun estate, which included Overtoun House, a grand mansion built in the 1860s by James White, who was a wealthy industrialist from Glasgow. The bridge spans the Overtoun Burn, a Scottish term for a stream, and provides access to the house and surrounding estate, which are situated on a picturesque wooded gorge. So the bridge is built in a Gothic revival style. I'm sure JT will insert a photo of it for you so you can see it. It's very dramatic looking, and it is a Category B listed structure indicating its historical and architectural significance. The bridge stretches approximately 50 feet above the gorge and features parapets that are relatively low, which has been suggested as a possible factor in the dog incidents. The Gothic elements in the scenic yet rugged landscape contribute to the bridge's mysterious vibe, if you will, because it really does feel like, if you look at it, like it looks like a haunted bridge.
It absolutely looks like a haunted bridge. Yes.
You know, but
And,
Yeah,
you
I'm getting the.
I have to believe that when designing a bridge, you're not saying, this will look haunted. That'll be great. Look at it. You're like, no, sir, please.
no.
Could you make it cheery?
No.
No
But that's
cheery
honestly what
bridges.
all of Scotland looks like. It's very Harry Potter-esque. It's Harry Potter core.
Yes, it does have that Harry Potter vibe to it.
Especially when everything's wet because it's a very rainy country. I love it. Scotland's my favorite place in the world. So I'm here for it. Not here for dogs jumping off of it, though.
No, that is peculiar and strange and baffling.
Yeah.
Frankly.
So with the dog suicide phenomena, the bridge actually gained its notoriety due to the high number of dogs that have reportedly leapt to their deaths from it since the 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
So it hasn't always been this way. Apparently there must have been a shift in the 50s.
Yeah, absolutely.
But reports suggest that as many as 50 dogs have died and hundreds more have been compelled to jump off the bridge under similar circumstances.
Wow.
And there have been some patterns with the incidences. So basically, the dogs often leapt from the same side of the bridge on the right-hand parapet and typically during clear weather. And most incidents occur in daylight, adding to the puzzlement over what motivates the dogs to jump. So it's in the middle of the day during clear weather. Yep. It's not like doggy depression from the overcastness, which I don't even know if that would affect dogs in that way, but...
Now, y'all, I did include it in the thumbnail, but I'm gonna just let you know. I'm gonna show a video, and if you don't want to look at, not a video, a photo. If you don't want to look at it, you don't have to. But it's of a dog jumping off the bridge.
Oh boy!
So
So
here we go.
Great.
I just gotta find it.
Trigger warning.
yes, poor doggies.
Yes.
I can't
And
see
I won't-
your
I
name
won't
right
keep it
now
up
because
for
it's
long.
being
It's
blocked
just
on our end. But whoever said
For
poor doggies,
information.
you're right.
All right, here we go. Anyway, you can keep going, Maddie.
Okay, great. So nice. Also, specifically with breeds that are affected, it's not all dogs. The phenomena predominantly affects long-snouted breeds with the long snoots, like Labradors, Collies, and Golden Retrievers specifically. And if you're able to see the photo, you will see that is a long-snooted pup.
Yes, it is.
These breeds are known for their strong sense of smell, which is central to one of the prevailing theories
Intriguing.
about the cause of the incidents.
Okay.
So some dogs have survived their falls and astonishingly have returned to the bridge
Yep.
for a second attempt,
Yep.
That's unbelievable.
which
That's freaking unbelievable.
so and that's where I'm not going to spoil the theories yet, but that to me negates the prevailing theory particularly because that doesn't sound normal.
Not even a little.
So we'll just remember that part and we'll reconvene. But it's indicating a possible compulsive behavior triggered by something at the bridge. So there are several theories that have been advanced to explain why there are so many dogs doing this. And mostly the number one is the olfactory or olfactory theory. The most widely supported theory suggests that the scent of mink or other small animals living in the gorge below the bridge overwhelms the dog's senses. A study by animal behaviorist
about all that.
Dr. David Sands supported this theory, proposing that the combination of scents from male mink urine could be particularly enticing to dogs, especially during the breeding season. Which,
It's intriguing. I mean,
yeah,
that's a solid scientific answer. but it doesn't explain things like returning.
Right.
Because if you're down in the gorge where the smell is, why would you go back up to the bridge?
Right. Well, and also I think it's interesting too, because if we're looking at the breeds that have been mostly affected by this, like these bigger dogs, the golden retriever types, the border collies, the things like that, they were not bred
They're
usually.
not typical hunting.
Yeah. Well, they're not usually bred for small game hunting.
Right.
That's silky terriers, like my dog.
Sure.
If like they said a bunch of silky terriers were jumping off the bridge to get to the minks, I would 1,000% believe that, because they were bred to basically dive into small holes to chase off after things like possums and little critters like that. But these bigger dogs are usually herder dogs,
right.
or things like that. So I feel like, well, I don't know. And then the whole climbing back up thing, it's like, well, that didn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
It just, and none of that makes sense.
It just doesn't make sense, because I feel like dogs have a greater sense of danger than that.
Right.
Then like if they smell something, are they just gonna go head first after it? Or because I know for instance Argyle wouldn't. She'd stop. She'd be like, what's going on? Like she analyzes everything, but
Yeah.
also
Unless it's
other
a tennis
dogs have
ball.
Other dogs are smarter than others, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I don't
very
know.
difficult because I had an English setter that was super, super smart, and one day jumped through the pane of glass on a window. Like, it was smaller than he was.
Wow.
And he jumped full force, breaking through the glass straight out without being able to see where he would end up.
Wow.
So it was like, what the hey now, henny now?
Yeah.
Because
Sure.
he was one of those dogs that gets super nervous alone at home. And it was one of those things where something had driven him to such a frenzy that he leapt out a window. And we could have been on the 4th floor.
Yeah.
There was nothing to
was
determine
okay.
that there would be safety on the other side. And he was a smart dog. It was just something triggered inside of him to do that. Although, in this instance, they are suggesting that a smell overwhelmed their capability to figure that out. You should be able to gauge
Right.
an olfactory, chemical. You should be able to take out a meter or a device that should be able to, for all argument, express whether or not there is enough pheromone in the air, if there's enough,
Right.
enough of that smell in the air to compel an animal. Because in order for it to compel an animal, it'd have to smell like it was close enough for the animal to get to.
Ooh.
Like if it smelled like it was very distant.
I was going to say, EO Serenity just asked, could this be Fey activity?
Sure.
Not out of the realm of possibility, but also I don't know if there is enough support in Fey lore to encourage animals to repeat the activity. You know what I mean?
I don't know. It depends on what the Fae wants from it.
Right.
Because if the Fae wants to punish humans by taking away their loved and beloved thing,
They're familiar.
their familiars.
Yeah. Mhm.
That kind of makes sense. There is a notion that there is a lot of animosity towards humans for certain transgressions. But let's hear the other theories before we go too
before
far
we-
off of our.
That's interesting though, because like ask Madison what would make me just like lose it.
Yeah. Either of our dogs jumping off of a bridge.
That would
Argo
lose it.
almost
I'd
went
be
off a
over.
cliff one
That
time.
would
Oh
kill
no!
me.
I mean,
So- That
would kill me.
if I were
Right.
being absolutely diabolical of mind, I'd
Yeah.
say, how do you hurt a human being? You hurt what it loves.
Yeah.
Forget like stabbing a person. Stab the person's dog. Yeah.
No,
seriously.
And that's the kind of thing that if you were dealing with an entity who had it out for humans and had the ability to do this kind of thing.
To a lot of dog owners like myself, like there are children, because I don't have human children, but I got dog children.
Mm-hmm. So we'll read the other two theories basically, and then we will go forward.
Because I have my own theory.
Yeah.
Okay.
So other theories have considered the possibility of dogs being disoriented by the bridge's architecture or by sounds that are inaudible to humans.
Ooh. Okay.
The visual perspective of dogs, their depth perception, and their sensitivity to particular sounds might differ significantly from humans, possibly disorienting them or triggering an unexpected reaction. But again, why are they getting back up on the bridge if it doesn't work the first time?
Also, how do you explain the first 50 years?
Right.
You got to realize that for the first 50 years, this was not a phenomenon. Dogs were around. So why did it just start in the 1950s when it was built in the late 1800s?
Exactly.
So, that's a sound theory, but how would it not have affected any animals until that time? What could have happened, to cause something different about the architecture? Nothing. The architecture didn't change. The audible thing is actually part of my theory, but what was it that changed? What possible audio frequency, oral frequency could exist that wasn't there before? It was just introduced.
Could it be maybe the water, like below it? Like, could it be like the water going up against maybe a certain type of rock or something and creating a high-pitched sound?
But again, why would it get back up on the bridge then? Like, and then jump again.
Try to find the source.
But then jump
it would
again.
be at the source.
Yeah.
I mean, the big thing is if it jumped off to get to the source, and you're saying that the source was the water of the ground, then it would have been down where the source was.
Yeah.
And then,
right?
That way, it would have got there.
The sound, if it is sound, and again, kind of in my theory, it would have to be on par with the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Now, hear me out.
Yeah.
Hear me out. What if the sound is coming from the water, they get down to the water, they're still alive, but it's now, the sound is now reverberating off the bridge. And they're going
it's bouncing
up to
and
the
echoing.
bridge. It's bouncing, and that's why they go back and forth.
That's not a bad theory at all.
Yeah, it's not. But I will say we do have some paranormal theories as well before we get too deep into our thoughts.
That's what this podcast is about, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So one popular supernatural theory is that Overtoun Bridge and its vicinity are haunted by spirits that influence the dogs to jump.
Okay.
Some locals believe that the bridge is what they call a thin place, where the boundary between the world of the living and the spiritual realm is particularly thin.
Okay.
This concept is rooted in Celtic mythology, which suggests that such places can have unsettling effects on living creatures, potentially the explaining of dogs' inexplicable behavior. Which, I mean, there is some, like, in paranormal theory, there is some basis to that, because people say the same thing when when animals get near portals and stuff like that, the animals start acting strangely. But also, there is a ghost that is associated with the Overtoun Bridge. It's
there is.
the White Lady of Overtoun.
Oh.
A specific ghostly figure is in that area is the White Lady of Overtoun, said to be the spirit of a grieving widow who roams the estate. So according to local stories, she has been seen wandering near the bridge and the house, and her presence is said to contribute to the eerie atmosphere. Some speculate that her sorrowful spirit might be influencing or unsettling the dogs, leading them to leap from the bridge. Which, I mean, I hear that, but usually a lady in white is not an unkind spirit. If we're going off of
It's tricky.
a lot of,
Generally, they do denote tragedy. They do denote that a tragedy is coming.
Yeah.
That you might be involved in an accident. Yes. And to me, that falls very much into the realm of my theory. And my longstanding theory of the Overtoun Bridge is that in 1950, somewhere in the early 50s, a woman leapt to her death off the bridge. I don't have any proof of that. It's just what I think happened.
Okay.
And I think that the residual haunting of her jumping off of the bridge is what dogs are reacting to.
Ooh.
They are trying to stop her. They're trying to keep her. And if the dog gets to the bottom, she's still replaying the leap. So she's still on that trajectory, but she never makes it to the bottom. So the dogs would have to come back up to stop her.
Oh, wow.
That
over
way.
and over again.
Especially the specific breeds.
Yeah.
Labrador, collie, border dogs. These animals are specifically about herding people together, keeping people in a group, keeping them from going away or going off or going into danger. So in my estimation, that feels like a something that a dog's heightened sensibilities plus their specific breeding, when you combine those two things, a human in peril, they might hear the scream of the person jumping off the bridge, and that might be enough to motivate it, because these are not constantly happening. They're intervaled. They're they're far enough apart. I mean, 50 dogs in 50 years, that's an alarming amount, but that means that you could go whole years without an incident. You could, have these kinds of things. And then it's like, well, is there a specific season? We get that it's a sunny day mostly. So now it's like, could it be close to the date of this woman's passing?
Yeah.
Right.
And I always say woman, it could be a man too, not to negate it.
But I mean,
but
if
I
there
have
is
this
a woman in
strong
white,
sensation that I had heard of the woman in white and wondered, because again, it comes down to the fact that that it has a start time.
Right.
It started in the 1950s, which suggests that what could have changed in the environment, what could have changed to suggest that from that moment forward, animals would behave this way. Because normally I would say, oh, well, what's the electromagnetic pull? Are they sitting on limestone? Are they sitting on a crystal deposit? Is there any earth and ash? Is there anything like that? Because there's a lot of reasons why our brains get rewired in certain areas, because the environment itself is frying our perception.
Sure.
But to say, well, this started in the 1950s, not after an earthquake, not after a huge, cataclysmic event. It's like, well, what changes the atmosphere so greatly as to suggest an animal would do this? I do believe that it is linked to a human death. Especially, again, because the breeds in question are generally the breeds that you would assume would leap after you into danger if they thought they could save you.
Exactly.
Wow.
But, yeah.
That's wild. No, Chris, I love
That's
that
actually
theory.
that's a much more intriguing theory than anything I found.
It's got me looking at that photo I found of the dog jumping off, seeing if there's anything in front of it.
Well, mind you,
it's wild.
He would have jumped through. Think that a person standing on the parapet, about to jump, and leaning towards, the dog has passed the spirit at this point.
Poor thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's wild.
And that's a leap.
When
you hear about it, the dogs are not timidly falling off of the bridge.
Yes.
They are in full leap. They jump. And
Like
then
they're
the
trying
story,
to get you. Like they're trying to save you.
Like they're trying to save you. And
That's
then
nuts.
You follow the story of the ones that hit the ground, are oftentimes wounded, and crawl back up to the bridge to jump again. It's like, are we thinking that these dogs are suicidal in the sense of being saddened to the point that they're throwing themselves off a bridge? Or do they have some sense of duty or some sense of responsibility?
That sounds more like dogs.
That sounds more like a dog.
And we just don't deserve dogs.
We don't. We don't deserve.
Even this potential answer just proves we don't deserve dogs.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. Well, some other theories, even though I like Chris's way better, but there are some other theories. Another theory is that this bridge is located at a point of significant psychic energy, which could affect sensitive animals like dogs. Okay. The theory is sometimes extended to suggest that the bridge could be cursed either by specific malevolent entities or through tragic events that have left a psychic imprint on the location. The curse is often linked to stories of ancient rituals and practices in the area, though this has no historical evidence to support such claims. And those are really the main theories of all of it. But if we do want to go back to that Fae activity, they are over water. That is not
and
to
a
say...
bridge over water is one of the earliest negotiations between humans and the Fae were... In order to go over water, they oftentimes had to perform a sacrifice.
Right.
Sacrifice was necessary to build over water so that the water spirits would not tear the bridge down. The song My Fair Lady is a remnant of the belief that when you're building a bridge, you have to honor the fae, the water spirits, or it will cause calamity and destruction.
And so it is possible that maybe with, I don't know, we're really getting into some conspiracy theory here. And like maybe with the increase of industrial revolutionizing in that area, the Fae are like, well, we need to, regain our control over
Exert
this.
our, show them that we still have power.
Yeah. I don't know.
Jeez.
Conspiracy theory, if we want to go in the Fae realm, because there are plenty of water Fae creatures that are for sure not above being malevolent. So
and whenever you go over water, you're also dealing with the Fae on the two sides. Mm-hmm. So when you have two blocks of land, oftentimes the river separates two Fae clans, and they don't want to be connected. So if you're building a connection point for these two Fae clans, you're also inviting calamity from them, from the Fae on one side of the bank and the Fae on the other side of the bank.
One thing that I thought of that was probably a little too literal is what if there are like low-flying birds? And I know that this happened only at this bridge and stuff, but I just remember Tartan a week ago, he was chasing that yellow butterfly in the backyard. He chases it hard.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Like he's like trying to get this, but he's never going to get it. But he's trying to get this butterfly. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I wonder if maybe there's like birds or butterflies or something that fly low to the bridge that they might be just like hurling themselves after. I don't know. It's definitely disturbing.
It's very disturbing. But again, we got to think about the breeds, like, because I didn't find any evidence to support that there were small dogs doing this. Not to say that there maybe was one small dog or two small dogs that did this, that we just, are getting pushed into the outskirts, but the majority of these dogs would not have been bred to instinctually hunt after small critters, even birds like that. Because all of these dogs look like they have some level of lab in them, or German Shepherd or whatever, which again would have been also, if you have like a German Shepherd doing this, that's an animal that was bred to work with humans.
Guard
humans. So, I mean,
it's fascinating because of what you know of dogs and their breeds and how they behave, because it is not unlikely to believe, like even the common notion of, if you threw a Frisbee, would the dog chase it off the edge? If you threw a ball, actually that happens a lot. Mm-hmm. You hear people in high rises all the time accidentally letting a ball go off the side of a balcony and the dog chasing it. That's not uncommon. However, to have it localized with no seeming source, with no seeming, because the bird idea is not far-fetched. It's just somebody would have noted.
Yeah. And that would happen in a bunch of other bridges too.
Right, exactly. And it would happen all over.
That's why I was arguing against myself in my head. I was just like, that's something I want to say, because it could be.
No, and it's reasonable to think that there could be some visual thing, some visual component, something that, but the reason why they came up with the theories that they have is because they kind of weeded out the things that would have been observed by now. Mm-hmm. Sure. We would have seen the thing that they keep chasing. We would have noted what it was that has prompted them to jump. So now they're like, well, it must be a smell that we can't smell, a sound we cannot hear, or things like that.
Possibly at this particular bridge, could the water sound closer than it is? Maybe something
Possibly.
like that. And they think that they're going to go jump in water.
But why the same parapet though?
That's true too. Why would they jump off the same side of the same thing in all that regard? Although, if you go to enough small towns, you will come across a crybaby bridge. Crybaby bridge is a common occurrence. Bridge. I think we have one in South Carolina, just kind of over the bridge there. And a crybaby bridge is basically a bridge where the water is moving in a fashion that causes a sound that sounds like a baby crying. And it's so prevalent that, there's a lot of lore at every one of these bridges But it always comes out down to the same lore. It's the same story.
Yeah.
But it's because when you're standing on the bridge, you're like, I swear to you, I hear a baby crying. So yeah, there could be some auditory something that is specifically compelling to a dog.
Sure.
That it's hearing. However, I feel strongly that, again, that's a measurable thing.
Yeah.
Like even saying that there's a sound that dogs can't hear, we have equipment that can hear things that we can't hear. Sure. We have plenty of equipment that can hear in a wide range, far beyond our own senses, that I think by now would have been employed. I would imagine that somebody would have been like, get over to that bridge with my microphone and, listen and see if there's anything.
I really want to go to this bridge
I do too.
To just see, like to bring microphones and cameras and whatnot and see what we could find.
Yeah,
that's different.
It's really just comes down to that. It's like, even though there are some pretty solid scientific thoughts on this, they don't cover all of the questions that are asked.
There are lots of questions,
you know?
Yeah.
The returning of a dog after throwing itself off, there's no compelling reason for an animal, an injured animal, to go back and do it again if it's only acting on the weird instinct of hearing something or smelling something.
Right.
Now we do have Scottish listeners. We definitely have Scottish listeners. If anyone is listening and is like near the bridge, lives near the bridge, or is going to a place that's near the bridge, and if you wanted to get video, we would be greatly appreciative of it. And
or if you live anywhere
mail.
near the area and you have like her local theories of why it's happening,
send it in.
Let us know.
Please.
Because I'm sure, I mean, if we lived in that town, we would be like, I don't know what's going on with this thing, but we'd probably talk about it a lot. So people are probably going to come up with some theories,
And they might know a story that we can't uncover.
Right.
There might be something, because the Lady in White is an interesting story, and not all ladies in white share, everything, and it could simply be, because the story seems to be a widow who passed away and roams the area. There could be more to that story, that specific story. It's like, well, when did she die? What was the occasion? Do you have any idea of her connection to the land and the bridge? It seems like she's possibly an owner. So if there were more information, at the very least, it's worth exploring.
Yeah. And I think, honestly...
Any stories about trolls?
Ooh.
Alex, we will actually do a whole podcast on trolls.
Yeah, we could
definitely do that.
Very strong and compelling stories about trolls. Not in Scotland.
But in the Scandinavian sort of
absolutely
area, and there's whole protected areas for the trolls.
Although isn't this actually? I think there are trolls in Scotland. I recant. We will do a deep dive in trolls because people believe in trolls. And
old school bridge trolls.
Old school bridge trolls. Bridge trolls are a thing in an entire culture. And it may very well just be because bandits used to hide under bridges waiting for people to come by, and then they jump out and steal from you. And so they modified storytelling so that they would be trolls. But we do know a lot about trolls, and that is an entire episode.
Yeah, because that's a really deep lore.
It's a super deep lore.
Yeah, but we can definitely talk about some trolls. That's always a fun thing.
Do you know Kirsty lives right next to this?
Oh, duh.
We have this really good friend. We have this really good friend named Kirsty. She lives in Scotland. I wanted to see if she lived anywhere near it because we could ask her to easily go and or even tell us because she's a historian there, and she lives in Stirling, which is right next
That's right
to
there.
it.
Yeah.
I'm like,
reach out.
I'll reach out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna shoot her a
Also,
text.
tell her we're coming.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
She would love that.
Dude,
Shelton, Kirsty, when JT and I went to Scotland on our honeymoon, she drove us around a portion of the Highlands and was taking us to all these creepy little places, like really creepy random cemeteries in the middle of the hills of Scotland. So,
all right, I'm gonna say it. 2000. If we reach, let's see, we have 273 parajunkies currently. If we reach 450 parajunkies, then we will do a haunted Scotland.
Sounds good.
sounds good to me.
Yeah. series, and we'll go there.
We're
and do
serious.
it.
So yeah,
Star Attack 450. Let's do it.
let's do it. Okay, well then that is y'all's incentive. Go join us over on Patreon and get us to the 450, and we will make that happen. And if you've never been to Scotland, my God, there is a lot going on there.
Oh man,
It is
so
a
haunted.
paranormal paradise.
It's we went to the fairy pools, and people were letting their children run around in the fairy pools, and I'm like, oh my God, no. That is like the worst thing you could do. I'm like, that is asking for your child to be taken by the fae. But there also was this really interesting, there's a little bit of a hike to get up to where the main pools are, which are basically, the fairy pools are this weird abnormality that is like circular, like ripples in the ground. And so, but there's like a little bit of a hike, and it's got hills where it looks like little houses with mushrooms growing next to it that are just naturally occurring.
Oh, sure.
In the fairy pools,
Oh, sure.
supposedly. And I'm like, look, it's a whole fae village. We're just walking through it, but yeah, so. Let's get to 450, y'all, and we will make that happen. But that is all we have for you today. Comment down below if you're listening on YouTube, or if where you are listening has a comment section. Comment what you think is happening with the dog suicide bridge, and we'll see if maybe we have similar thought processes on this. But with that, y'all, my name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Soucy.
And stay spooky, y'all.